So thank you everyone for attending, and yes, it's very great to see such a strong interest from many researchers about the grant writings. And before I introduce the sections, Luke, do you want to have a go to introduce about our ECR network? And then I'm gonna go after that.
Yeah, so the ECR network is a network that's part of the OR Society. It's for people who are ranging from late stage PhD through to the first few years of being a lecturer, and it includes postdocs in that as well. Um, it's run by ECRs, and the idea is to try and offer a space which uh, lets people connect across the UK, but also puts on events like this one, which help to try and support the um, career development as you go through. It's also about trying to make sure that we promote the research area of operational research too as we go through. Um, so yeah, we run a number of events. There's obviously this one. In the past, we've also looked at events on knowledge transfer and knowledge exchange. We've looked at funding opportunities. We've looked at how to find your first academic job, those sorts of things. And we're aiming to do a few more this year, um, including hopefully starting up a series where ECRs will get a chance to present their work as well in a series of webinars. Um, the only other big thing to highlight will be that just before OR 67, we will have a one-day workshop as well, where we'll cover all sorts of things, including grant writing and that sort of thing. So hopefully building on some of the themes that come up here. So you would be very welcome to join the network and join the mailing list. As part of that, we also um, promote our own events, but we also promote other events by other organisations as well that are relevant to ECR. So yeah, you can get that sort of information through the network if you want to join. Um, can we have the next slide too? So there's a few of us on the committee now, which is quite nice. So as I said, I'm chair. And Elizabeth is um, is the secretary, but we've also got six other members who do various other jobs. So Vea Parvi and Sheba are on uh, communication and write-up. We've got Gift, who's a co-chair with me, Hongyu and Tu, who are the events organizers. So I'll pass over on to them because they've done most of the work in setting up this event. And we've got Serena as well, um, who does a lot with the LinkedIn group and the other communications. So please feel free to get in contact with any of us if you'd like to, or you want to know anything more about the network. Um, so yeah, other than that, I'll pass back to two.
Yeah, so the section today, as you have been aware, is designed to provide a practical guidance on grant writings from multi-perspective, including a funding body, earlier career, and senior academics. And we are very pleased to have three excellent speakers with us today. First, we are delighted to welcome Dr. Kanatras. She is an EPRC portfolio manager responsible for both the operational research and statistics and applied probability portfolio. She also the lead for the EPRC's mathematical science moon grant funding course with over 2 years of her experience. She has handled more than 200 grant applications in mathematical science remit. And next, we're going to hear about from the Dr. Moshabs. He currently a lecturer in data science and AI at Bungo University, and currently he have ongoing projects with Airbus, Air France, KML, and Mace. And his research interests largely around meta-heuristic and evolutionary algorithms. Before joining Bungo University, he did his PhD in computer science at Queen Mary University of London and was also the research assistant there. He also worked at the data scientist at task force in the OR group. And finally, we are very pleased to welcome Professor Allen. He's a professor of mathematical optimization at the School of Mathematical Science at University of Southampton, where he is affiliated with OR groups and COMSIST. And he's currently have multiple research grants from both public and private organizations and has contributed to research assessment at the various levels, including serving on EPRC mathematical science prioritization panels. And we have three talks from three guests. Each talk will last around 10 to 20 minutes, followed by 10 minutes times for the QA sections. And we encourage all of the audience to ask the question during the QA sections and or using the chat. And hopefully our guest speaker can able to address as many as they can. And without further ado, I'm very pleased to introduce our first speakers, Dr. Kanachars. She will present an overview of the EPRC's grant application and share the key point that what application need to know when they preparing the proposals. And please join me in welcoming Dr. Kanachars.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for the lovely introductions. Very nice to meet you all today. If you haven't met me already, so yes, my name is Sinatra. I'm currently a PSLC portfolio manager who cover OR portfolio. So I guess I will share my screen to begin with. Just bear with me one moment. Okay, I believe you can see my screen. Just want to double check. Yeah, that's all good. Okay, that's fine. Just for you to know that I will be sharing my slide as well. So if you miss out some of this information, or if you'd like to have a look at any of these elements, please feel free to come back and check. I'll send it to you. Look and through and the home later after this talk. Yes, so I just want to give you a general information first about EPSC and UKRI. That as you may already know that we have transitioned from this system to the funding service, which is we call in short TFS. So we use this platform to manage all the grant application and also manage all the active grant currently in the system, and also we use TFS to manage panel meetings as well. So because this is the live system, so there's some features or functionality that might be introduced in the near future, because we're trying to improve things every day. So please don't be surprised about that, and hopefully it's the good improvement. If you have any comments, anything that we can do better in terms of our new platform, please feel free to give us some feedback as well. Very much welcome. And one thing that I like to highlight is that on TFS, it requires nominal deadline, for our funding opportunities to be displayed on the platform. So just want to reiterate that for responsive mode opportunities, such as like standard grant, network grants, and so on, there are no deadlines. So you please feel free to submit whenever you're ready. And also in terms of some of the funding opportunities that are available and an ongoing, approach is that if you are postdoctoral researchers, of course, you can apply for our postdoctoral fellowship, which, luckily for MAT, we continue to have these funding opportunities. And of course, OR is also part of the MAT's remits as well. So please feel free to submit or look at into details for the postdoctoral fellowship opportunities if you're interested. And of course, you can also get involved, in the grant application as the Research and Innovation Associate, or we call it a PDRA. Or another thing, if you get involved with developing the grant application, you can also be named as the researcher colleague as well. Okay. Apart from that, if you are new academics, we have a specific funding opportunities available for you, and just only you is the new investigator award, which is the funding opportunities that only open for those who have applied for EPSRC for the first time. So if that's for you, please feel free to have a look at that. And also the Open Plus Fellowship also available for you, including responsive mode, as I mentioned earlier, standard grant, network grants, overseas travel grant, those kind of things. You can also apply for that. And UKRI, Center UKRI, they also have UKRI Future Leader Fellowship. That is another opportunity that you may consider. And yes, also this opportunity also apply for any early career researchers as well. Another thing that I like to highlight is that across EPSRC and UKRI, we now have the harmonized assessment criteria, which we have 5 core assessment criteria for most of our funding opportunities, and they are vision, approach, applicant and team ability to deliver, resources and cost justification, and also ethic and responsible research and innovation. And want to highlight that all these 5 core assessment criteria, they are equally weighted. All of them are equally important, and so please take note of that. And also, apart from these 5 core assessment criteria, some of the opportunity might have the additional criteria. For example, for the fellowship, they'll ask for the career development part as well. That is an additional criteria. Yes, so also like for network grants, in addition to the 5 core assessment criteria, they'll ask you about added value of the network. And the overseas travel grant is slightly different. They have 3 assessment criteria. So as I said, if you want to have further details about each funding opportunities, please go through that. But in general, 5 core assessment criteria apply to all EPSRC funding opportunities. Yeah. So what I would like to make my case today, and I'd like to draw all of your attention, is because the 5 core assessment criteria, they are equally weighted, and some of the common shortcomings, not just only for early career researchers, but also established researchers, that they make is that they haven't gone through its assessment criteria thoroughly, maybe, or maybe there are some of the application haven't addressed each assessment criteria thoroughly, which on each funding opportunities, we have details, which is, for example, for the vision, as I show on my slide here, we have this information available on all funding opportunities to tell you exactly what the assessors are looking for. We're literally like telling you, the answers. So your role is just to cover those things, and I'm sure you'll be fine. For example, unlike for vision, it's definitely what we are looking for, and what assessors are looking for is that you must be able to evidence that your proposed research project, they're excellent in terms of quality and important. Definitely need to advance some current understanding, especially they should develop novel mathematical aspect, in order to make your case, and also timeliness. This is also another important aspect of the vision. Why do you have to do this project now? And why not I don't know, like 5 or 10 years, in 10 years time, why is needed? This is really important. And also impact as well, not just only like academic impact, like you disseminate your research outcome, but also any other elements as well. In terms of the approach, obviously, your approach should be appropriate and effective, feasible. Another thing that I like to highlight is that risk mitigation is another element that some applicants, fail to address, because we EPSRC and also the panel members, we need to know if things are not going to to what you plan. I mean, what is your emergency? What is your plan B? What's the risk mitigation that you look at? Not just only the project itself, but also in case, let's say you have your PDRA as part of your project. Let's say you don't have the specific PDRA at the time, and you need to look for appropriate or suitable PDRA. Do you have like sufficient pool that you can go to and find that PDRA to be part of your project? That kind of thing. This is also the risk mitigation that will be very useful for the panel to know. And also yeah, so the methodology, it should be clear and transparent. If you can include like milestone, or is steps for work packages, I think that is really important. And also, if you have work plan, like how long does it take? Let's say for package 1, how long does it take for package 2, when it's coming? Like just to lay out all these activities. I think that will be really important as well. In addition to appropriate research method that you choose. Okay, in terms of the third criteria is applicant and team capability to deliver. Obviously, we expect that the project lead, will have the relevant experience, and the whole team also actually should have the right balance of skill. Maybe the project leads might work on a particular project a bit less, but the core project lead, might have the strength on that. This kind of thing you should demonstrate. And also, if you have like a project partner, visiting researchers, or even name PDRA, who have skills and experience in particular area that will make the whole team strong, or cover all the necessary skills. I think that is really important. And for the project lead, him or herself, the element of leadership and management skill, this is another thing that we're looking for. Especially, as I said, when you have PDRA or other researchers within your core team, is worth to highlight that how you will manage and how you will manage and lead your younger colleagues, and how you would like to develop them, throughout the process as well. This is really important. The fourth assessment criteria is around resources and cost justification. Even though we not require you to go into details or give so much details about the cost, but of course, we have different headings about the cost. For example, for directly allocated costs, or directly incurred costs, which also cover the cost for travel and subsistence. If you plan to go to conference, nationally, internationally, or you like to travel, to meet and talk with other researchers. Also, you can include that and just let us know. For example, if you thinking about, let's say, spend £5,000 for the travel and subsistence, we just only need to know, that okay, maybe you plan to do 2 national conference and 2 international conference, for example, and do here and there, but you don't have to say that, oh, you need £100, for taxi, or I don't know, like for each meal you spend £25, that kind of thing. Not into that detail, just a broad how are you going to spend money for each category. And also the last assessment criteria is the ethics and responsible research and innovation. This is the new assessment criteria that we introduced. So we know that is something that we need to work on, and also to try to communicate with the community. How are we gonna assess on this criteria? Because it's not just only about ethical approval. So some of the application for the MAT application, I mean, for the OR application, you are already very good in terms of identify ethical approval, if it's needed, but other areas, for example, like equality, diversity, inclusion, like let's say if you have PDRA within your team, or how do you how do you include your team members? And you can also talk about open research, like if you produce a new data set or if you use data sets from somewhere else, just talk to us around that, how you will manage those data sets, and also talking about your you can also talk about your research integrity, something like that as well. So these are just some of the examples. So element is not that, well, we require you to talk about all of these things, but it's just to give you some idea what you can talk about for this criteria in addition to the ethical approval. So yes, so for the writing tips, I mean, I talked about it already. Well, basically, please try to address, all as much as you can within the each assessment criteria, the timeliness and the impact and the appropriate cost and everything, as I highlighted earlier. And be clear, with your science case, and also risk mitigation. Yeah, this is another thing. Also, in terms of required documents, you may already know that, for example, for the vision and approach documents, we ask you to submit it, separately, as a PDF file. And if you have project partner, and also you have the letter of support from the project partner, this is another element that we require you to upload separately. So please check that. Then do you have that? I mean, for project partner, if appropriate, of course. And another thing that I like to emphasize is the page limit for the vision approach document, because some of the grant application, unfortunately, we had to reject them just purely due to the page limit. For example, for the standard grant and responsive mode application in general, and we allow 6-page limit, for the vision and approach document, and you could have an additional page, or purely for the work plan, or to describe your milestone. That is the page limit that we ask for. But for small grant, we only need 3 pages, of vision and approach document. So if you write more than the page limit, of course, you get rejected. But of course, if you correct that and make sure that the other elements of the research project are still the same, you haven't alter that, you are very much welcome to resubmit the same application. So yes, and also for fellowship, for example, all research organization support, this is another additional criteria that we look for. So please, address that promptly. Why particular university, if you're not there already, if not affiliated there already, why are they the best place for you to thrive and do that kind of research. Another thing that I like to talk about is about your audiences, who will be looking at your grant application, because when you write your grant application, there are 3 groups of people, that will be looking at your grant application. Obviously, us EPSRC, the first group. So we're not expert, obviously, and my background is not operational research. So but at least we have general understanding about the OR research area. So we must be able to understand your research and what you're trying to do, which elements of your research that has novelty, and of course it must be within mathematical sciences remit. Like, so for example, like novel optimal optimization technique, that kind of thing. You must be able to address that for us to see, oh, there's some new developed techniques, match technique within your grant application. And if you can please do that, that'll be super helpful. And also another group, so the second group is the peer reviewers, who are the expert. When we receive your grant application, we normally send out for reviews. So we reach out to the expert, who have technical expertise, and they're the one that need to understand your technical aspect of it. So even though there are some element that you have to make sure that you can make EPSC or general public, to understand your project, but also there must be the technical element that it has to be there to address your novelty and your technical approach. Another group is the panel members. If it's if your grant application have supportive review, you will go to panel meeting. And so for the panel members at the meetings, they are the expert from EPSRC science, is the expert from EPSRC mathematical sciences community. So that means, not only our professor or lecturer will be on our panel, but also the pure mathematicians, for example, those who work in algebra, geometry, topology, even like for the applied maths, such as like numerical analysis, nonlinear system, maths, bio, maths, physics, they will be at the panel to assess your grant applications as well. And yeah, so one thing that we sometimes get a comment from other panel members is that they're not sure if some application has had enough maths element, within the grant application, and this comment tend to be for the OR application, So what I would like to address is that, let's say if you're working on some optimization techniques, but if you can please, address like in terms of technical, in terms of mathematical aspect of it, in order to demonstrate it to other maths, remits for them to understand, or a little bit better. I think that would also help your grant application. But of course, we always EPSRC, convener and co-convener, we always make sure to address to the rest of the panel members that operational research is part of the mathematical sciences remit, and once there is novel mathematical aspect developed within this within the grant application, we take that as the maths application and we assess at the maths listing. So we are justified with the level of mathematical aspect of it. So, but it will be really helpful if you can address that as well, just to make sure that the rest of the panel member are aware. So in terms of the good application, yes, in terms of the vision, it's great to describe, what excited you. I think that should be portrayed, clearly, and also why you choose a particular grant or funding opportunities, for your research project. For example, why do you choose fellowship over standard grants? This should be addressed. And as I said, novelty is another thing that very, very important. If you have the word like you develop some novel technique, something, I think that is that's great. I mean that will answer the questions already. And realistic degree of ambition, and this is also very important. Like for example, like for small grant, is the grant that give money and for the project, that lasts only 12 months. So let's say if you have like 5 work packages, 6, 7, those kind of things, it might not be appropriate for small grant, and maybe you could consider submitting that to the standard grant instead, for example. So you must be able to make your case, on why it's even though it could be challenging, but it's also realistic to achieve. And yes, as I said, there are some common and shortcomings that I've seen a lot, across the application that has submitted to us. For example, for the vision, we do have comment from panel members that some of the vision is not that well articulated. As I show you on the previous slide, there are elements that assessors are looking for. The advanced current understanding, the timeliness, the impact, and those kind of things. If you can address that clearly, I think that should be absolutely fine. And in terms of the approach, yes, again, the details, how you're gonna tackle, your problems. I mean the scientific problems. So how are you going to do that? Which method is which method is appropriate, and risk mitigation, that's another thing. And in terms of the applicant and team capability to deliver, sometimes some of the application, the balance of skills are not clear, and sometimes, as I said, you haven't addressed the management and leadership skill, like how you're gonna develop, your team members and the less junior team members. I think that is another element that we get, especially like for PDRA. In terms of cost justification, as I said earlier, sometimes, some application, they just put like 5,000, for travel and subsistence, but no further explanation, but it'll make your application stronger if you can just say, as I said, like 2,000 for 2 national conference or 3 national conference, that kind of thing. Just a little bit, information around that. I think that would be really helpful. And also for the resource and cost certification, sometimes we get the comments around the unclear task and distribution among team members, especially for the project that has, let's say one project lead and 2 project co-lead and 2 PDRA and maybe 1 visiting researchers and another 2 project partners. That kind of thing, is good to address that, like who's doing what, who's doing which working packages, how are you gonna distribute, the work, and of course, it should be based on the skill and expertise. And the last thing is about the ethic and responsible research and innovation. I have already addressed that already. It's not only about ethical approval, but there are different things that we can also consider. But I would say for the OR application, we're not doing too bad. I think we consider lots of elements in terms of the responsible research and innovation. Because it's something that you do already, like you engage different stakeholders, consider like that different type of data, what kind of data access and everything already, so that you're doing great at that one. Yeah, so for the
Sorry, Chinatra, to interrupt, but
running out of time.
Yeah, but probably you could speed up a little bit so that we can stick to the agenda. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, I'm gonna wrap up soon. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, so after we receive review, and if you are invited to respond, of course, please respond within 14 calendar days, and you have 500 words limit, to address each reviews. So if you have 3 reviews, then obviously it's 1,500 word limits for you. And what you should know that at this point, your audience is the panel members, not the reviewers. So please make your case for the panel members, and please try not to be emotional, and try to be factual when you provide your response. And last thing is that, how you can, improve, or how you can make your application be more competitive is basically it's just to, see what people are doing, by being reviewers, for EPSRC. So yeah, so then you can see, some good application and some application that, can be approved. So then you see, which element that you can do better for your grant application. And one thing that I like to encourage everyone to do is that, we have EPSRC peer review scholars, and that's the source of the source that we go to see, and who we can ask to review our grant applications, and once you review our grant application, then we'll be able to invite you to be panel members, which you can see application from other match remits as well, not just only OR application. Yeah, so that is the thing that I like to address. So yep, that's it. Yeah, apologize.
Oh, thank you very much, Natra. It's a very informative talk. I mean, well, at least for me, it's very, very useful. And I believe it's the same for all the audience here. But I mean, to respect our time and also stick to the agenda, I would say that maybe we leave the question part, Q&A part at the end, so that we make sure the other presenters have enough time to give their talk. Okay, so on our agenda, the next speaker is Mosap. If you're there, Mosap, maybe you can share your screen and share your slides.
So thanks everyone. It's a pleasure today to talk on this early career research for applying for funding. Today, my presentation is a reflection of my involvement in a small grant, EPSRC small grant expert panel participation. So I'm going to look at this participation within the expert panel from three perspectives. Reviewer perspective, what you're going to do as a reviewer. And that's a bit of reflection also on what Chanatra was presented a bit earlier. And from application perspective, what you're going to gain from that review and how you're going to have a good application. The last one is from OR community perspective. So from a reviewer perspective, if you are chosen as a reviewer for EPSRC panel, especially for a small grant, you will be receiving an email from Chanatra or someone else as a EPSRC portfolio manager and inviting you for pre-panel briefing, which is often 1 hour meeting. In that 1 hour, you're going to be given a clear understanding of the evaluation process. It's going to walk you through what's going to be an evaluation process. And with evaluation process means evaluation of the applications. And that's going to expose you to how your own application will be processed in the future when you apply for funding. And also you will be introduced to a scoring framework, what kind of a scoring framework will be used for evaluation. And if someone has a conflict of interest, let's say one of the application is from someone that who you have been working with, you just need to state it and you will be out of that application. You won't review that application. And you get the chance to meet other panel members. And that's very important because every application, at least for a small grant, will be reviewed by 3 reviewers or 3 introducers, as EPSRC says. And then you receive the panel agenda. Means that if there are 40 applications that gotta be reviewed in 2 days or 1 day, not 1 day, 1 day won't be 40, it will be 20. If it will be in 2 days, you're gonna see when those applications that are assigned to you will be checked and review, and who are the reviewers for each application. So there are 5 criteria that your application will be assessed against, as Chanatra mentioned. All of those criteria are equally weighted and are important. Vision and approach, applicant and team capability, resources and cost justification, and ethics. So you need to pay attention to all of them. It doesn't mean that if you articulate vision and approach and then you come with a very nice proposal, nice problem, nice vision approach, and you don't pay attention to applicants and the team, resource and cost justification and ethics, it's going to pass through the panel. They are, for a small grant, the assessment has 4 categories. Either is fully meets the criteria, is exceptional, which is A. B is high quality and the application effectively meet all the assessment criteria. C is a good quality, but not fully meet assessment criteria. And D is not competitive. So that's for a small grant. For a standard grant is different than this one. And in a panel day, what will happen is that the session is run by the chair of the session, which is one of the academic who is quite established. And then the portfolio manager introduced the application one by one, and 3 introducers or 3 reviewers will give their comments for every single application. The first introducer or reviewer provides a summary of application and strengths and weakness of the application, overall score that person gives to the application. The second introducer, which is often domain expert, offer additional insight and technical evaluation. And this is very important, this second introducer, we're going to revisit it when I'm talking about OR expert being involved in the EPSRC panel. And the third one is a complement to the previous assessments. Now, that's what happened in the panel day. If if there are something that they might not come to an agreement, other people on the panel can also comment and get involved in the conversation. So then they're going to come to a final score. The EPSRC portfolio manager will record the final score, and the chair will agree on the comment or feedback, the strengths, feedbacks, and the areas that are not the strengths of the application to the EPSRC portfolio manager, and then later on it will be reported, it will be reported or be provided to our applicants. Any conflict of interest will be also declared there again, and those people will be put, if there is a conflict of interest for a panel member, that person for that particular application will be put in the virtual waiting room. And after that, reviewing that application, will join the call again. So that was the overall observation that I had, another member had when they are joining the EPSRC expert panel review. Now, from applicant perspective, what I observed there, is as follows. So the key observation was that it's very important to follow EPSRC guidance closely. So for every call, EPSRC put a detail what they are looking for and how the proposal will be evaluated. It is also important, as I mentioned earlier, and as Chanatra mentioned, to pay equal attention to all 5 assessment criteria. So it's just paying attention to 2 or 3 of them is not sufficient. And then you need to have a clear articulation of risk and appropriate mitigation. So okay, you want to do an application, you want to do a project, you put the proposal, but what are the risks? Don't overlook it. You need to put it somewhere in the vision or approach, saying that these are the risks and these are our mitigation for it. The other things that shouldn't be overlooked, that you need to consider to add all the recent and relevant publications. I recall that there was an application, and then one of the reviewers said that the latest publication they cited goes back 2011 or 12. I cannot believe there has not been anything done on this particular subject for over a decade. So it's important to cite recent and relevant publication. Resource needs to be well justified. For a small grant, it's important to have the name PDRA, because hiring a PDRA is a process that's going to take time. So having a name PDRA, it gives confidence to reviewer to say that, okay, they have someone line up, and if we find it, they will pick it up and start quite quickly. It's important also to involve a strong co-investigator, especially for early career researchers, to show that they have support from the community and the department, and clear alignment with R4RI. That's very important, because the CV writing has changed, and now it's a narrative CV. It's not like you say that I have all these top publication, and then you overlook the other side of it, which is how you help other people to develop their career, how you help your community to be a better community, to improve. So things like, involving within our society is very important, because you can mention those in R4RIR. And demonstrate industrial link, that if your project is applied, so what's the benefit of it to industry and impact of it. So that's the industrial link. So now to put the pinfall, what's the pinfall? If you do not justify resources properly, if we pick up somehow, let's say if the PI of the project gonna spend 5% and another project member will spend, 20% on the project, then there's a question. Why PI is spending 5%, the other person is 20%, why the other person is not going to be a PI then? So that's, justification of time is important. The other weak point of the application is that you say that I'm going to put a PDRA there without demonstrating what's the benefit for the PDRA career development. So you need to consider that one, because EPSRC care about it. Ethics needs also to be properly addressed. I know that a lot of people in this are doing OR. You might say, I'm doing transportation or I'm doing the applied math. So there are no ethics. Just saying there is no ethic involved is not enough. You need to articulate, you need to you need to explain why it's not enough. And if you name a project partner, say you put an industrial partner there, and you have a letter of support from them, as Chanatra mentioned, but the letter of support is not detailed. It means that the industry partner doesn't say what's the benefit of that project to them. It's very generic. It might again have a negative impact on the reviewer, saying that, okay, they're saying that's beneficial, but what part of it? How are they going to involve? So those things needs to be addressed as well. So that's a common pitfall. Now, the third perspective that I will cover is from OR community. Why is important to get involved in EPSRC expert panel or reviewing for EPSRC, and also why is important to get involved with the OR society. As Chanatra also mentioned, this pot for OR application is shared with mathematical science. My observation when I was part of the panel, the pure mathematical application got quite high score comparing to applied one. And there were quite a good number of pure mathematicians and mathematician on that panel, but the OR community did not have a strong presence. Now, what will happen is that this pot of money, this mathematical science funding, is highly competitive, like many other funding. But then you can hear the comments from the panel, like, it's too applied, it's not not mathematically enough. The project is not mathematical enough. It's engineering, not maths. And I recall in one or two occasions, they asked the EPSRC portfolio manager, do we really need to consider this application? So that's already a negative point. And then the EPSRC portfolio manager said, whatever application is in the here, it needs to be reviewed and scored. So it's very important that we're getting involved. I know that you're gonna spend time, we're all busy, but it's something that you give to your community and you're gonna get back from it. So it's important to get involved with it. And so aside from being involved with EPSRC to review proposal, it's also important to engage more activity in OR society. Within R4RI, there is a section, there are 4 sections. One of them, or core module, is contributing to wider research and innovation community. In that part, you should say what you have done for your community. And community doesn't mean only research. Let's say the researchers that are working with you is a wider community, means like OR society. If you are working for OR, have you helped them to write an article, general article? Have you present for OR society and your community? I'm not saying it should necessarily be OR society, any other community. And have you helped other people to progress through their career and improve? So greater OR representation is needed in EPSRC panel. And the main reason, as I explained, we can advocate the relevance and quality of the OR proposals. Because if people from pure mathematical science, they are not going to overlook what we are writing, but the relevance is going to be missing there. So the OR people expert on the panel can show the relevance of the project and advocate it. And it doesn't mean if it's a bad proposal, they will approve it. It means just that they show that it's relevant. And then our presence in the panel will help to frame the potential impact of the research. So I could see that a pure mathematician, they were quite supportive, saying that, okay, this is done, this is the extra, or is the continuation of what has been done. And that part needs to be done for our society as well. Last but not least, and it's a good point to hand it over actually to Alan to continue. Whatever I explained here, Alan and myself, we put together an article in Inside OR on this area that I cover here. And so if you are interested, you can check the last Inside OR magazine, which is available freely online, and see these 2 pages that we are talking about, how you can have a successful application and why it's good to get involved in EPSRC panel review and also in OR Society activity. So that's all from my side, and I hope that I was on time.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mosab. It's very useful. So we have some minutes for questions. So for the audience, is there any questions? Please unmute yourself and yeah. Right. Well, maybe I start with one first, and then while waiting for the audience to kind of thinking about their questions. So you mentioned about this on this expert review panel, they may think that your proposal maybe is too applied or too theoretical, or so this is for a review for which grant? I mean,
A small, this one was on a small
okay.
grant. Yes.
But I suppose that for the let's say a grant like a general grant, like a new investigator that opens to all different fields, I guess the review panel is they're not only looking for mathematical, or it's more general, I suppose.
I would say even in this case, they are not looking for mathematical, but if we are not present on the panel,
Mhm.
we're gonna show the relevance and advocate the impact of the project. The second person, the second introducer, as I mentioned, is a domain. It should be a domain knowledge. And domain knowledge means that someone who work on the scheduling, someone who work on transportation, someone. And if that person is not there, and by all means, it doesn't mean that EPSRC doesn't try to bring them on. It means that we need to be more active to get engaged with EPSRC. But in regards to your question about a new investigator about a standard application, I think Elaine and Chanatra can provide a more complete answer. I'll pass it to them.
Please, Chanatra.
Sorry, I was wondering whether I should put my hands up. But I just want to add to what Mosab said. I just on that yes, I mean that we see some subgroup of communities may be more generous when it comes to providing schools, but I just want to reassure you and everyone that the performance of the OR application is not bad at all, and we are actually in pretty much the same level with the other remits within the mathematical sciences as well. So we're not doing too bad. We do have like other remits, we have the one that have good news, and some may not have good news this time around, but definitely we're not doing too bad overall. Yeah.
Right.
Just one more thing. Just want to update one thing, that for the small grant funding opportunities, I mean the panel that Mosap and Ellen attended, I think at the time we used ABCD for the scoring, but now for the latest panel we actually use 1 to 10 already. So we have slightly changed our approach. So you can get update information on the small grant funding opportunities. Yeah.
Mm. Any questions from the audience?
I don't even know why you raised my hand and this stuff. But I have a comment, but maybe I could just do that when I start my talk, right? Maybe if someone else, I mean, I have a comment which could explain what Musab said in part. But yeah, maybe I maybe I can just make it now, just in case I forget. So basically, I think one of the challenges with the small grant, my understanding, I've attended a small grant panel and I've also attended the standard grant panel. And I think one of the main differences between the two is at the small grant panel, all the decision about ranking the proposals is on the panel members. So they don't have any free report to base their judgment on. While for and I actually that's one I think the small grant panel is very difficult in that sense because typically you have the composition of the panel is not necessarily different, but you have people on the panel, they are not expert in the areas in concern. I mean, most of I don't think it's that perception is just for OR. I think it's any more or less many areas. It's like you think math is so huge, right?
Right,
It's,
yeah.
it's very broad in terms of, so even in the pure guys, I think it's something with pure is that first, I think the statute, this or the statutes or whatever of the people who write proposal, typically they can be mathematicians that people know very well. So people tend to maybe a bit some bias. I'm not saying any PSRC does anything wrong there, but the perception of people sometimes can be so you don't really have if someone say I'm going to prove whatever the next unless you're really a fine detail expert in that area to know how transformative that result is. It's almost kind of there's a big gray area. But I think the fundamental difference, which I think explains what you're saying, is because for the standard panel, the panel members in principle, their ranking is not based necessarily on their personal judgment, but on their assessment of two things. What were the referee reports saying, and what were the responses of the applicants on the negative comments? So they are not really there to use your, but for small grant panel, whatever EPSRC regulation might say, you cannot avoid that because they don't have anything else to go with. You see what I mean? You have just the proposals. I think it's a nice scheme. I think Shanatra will tell you it's very popular, I think, and but it has that downside of it. When you go to the small grant panel, things are very stalled. Nothing's moved because people don't have much argument to argue against or for something. You see what I mean? While when you have reports and responses, you can easily see flaws, right? You can know which strong criticism the expert has made and how they replied or they've dodged the question or whatever. Then you can judge usually based. I feel the standard panels to be much easier from that regards, I think. Yeah.
Thank you, Elaine,
Mm.
for your insight.
Yeah, thanks for the comment. Well, I think now it's good time to move to the final talk from Elaine.
So with all we've had, I'm not really sure what I should talk about now, right? Because I think Shanhatra and Mossad have probably said most of the key things I could have probably imposed. But I guess probably there's still some aspects which I would emphasize, especially on the writing side of things. I think I would focus more on the writing side of things and also some observations on the review and some of the things to take account. So my slides are not many, so it should be very quick. And I kind of thought maybe in case people have questions, as I know, Hon, you have a few questions there. Maybe we could also use that for the remaining time to discuss if people have questions. So yeah, so and I was really quite happy that Shanatra focused a good chunk of our presentation on the assessment questions because I think for me that's really where you should start to write your proposal. So there's one thing, I mean, I would do some analogy at some point a bit later on what I think could be key differences between writing a research paper and writing a proposal. So, and I think the thing is, you're writing something for research articles, for instance, when you think about the way the refereeing process works, it's an open-ended process. Nobody prescribe how you're going to do the assessments, right? They tell you assess the quality of a paper. But here you have a very relatively prescriptive process where you have specific questions that need to be answered. So as a writer, I strongly would think it's probably the best place to start. You have your idea, your research idea, but it's good to know what you're going to go to be assessed with. And I think it's very good to really look closely to that. And one thing which I would also remark, and I think Shanat already touched upon that, I think the way the new TFS form works, I think is probably nicer than what we had before because you can more or less see. So now you fill the form online for your proposal. There's also a form online you fill. And you also then have, even for the review process, it's a form online. So I've reviewed the project with TFS as well. So you have the form online where the questions that you have on the form more or less match what you have in the form that you have to fill for the application. So it means that there's really a match more or less one to one. If you look at just the key components of the proposal. So I think it's really good to start from there, and then you can, when you frame your proposal, you really take your time. What do I use to answer this question, and so on. Um, yeah, and one thing which helped me a lot, I think, when I started this process, when Shanatra was talking about how you do the costing, I think probably if hadn't read many proposals at the beginning, it was quite strange. What does that mean when they say you provide a costing, right? And I think some of the things which I think probably came natural to me were because I read many proposals, because it allows you to see, okay, and often in many universities, you would have the research office can give you past proposals, usually indicating which one were successful and which one not, which can be quite helpful sometimes. So choose your topic carefully. For me, this is another difference I would make. I know we are all with a step, especially with the economic challenges that the universities are going through. We're all getting pressured to write after proposals. But this is one of the things that I think is very significantly different with a paper. I remember a comment which stuck with me from one of my proposal was a referee said, "Oh, we've already funded too many projects on this topic. Why do we need to keep?" And to be honest with you, any comment, whether you think it's irrelevant or not, can kill a proposal. I mean, so because you don't know, it's judgment. I can say it. The whole process, the way proposal it has nothing to do with PHPSRC. I don't think we have necessarily a better process than what we have. There's a lot of subjectivity in the process. There's a lot of things which are subjective. So you have to try your best to make your proposal perfect. I mean, perfect, it's also a relative kind of subjective word, but try your best to choose your topic. So what are the difference I'm making here in terms of topic is a proposal is not a paper. You can write, I don't know, one about number of paper you want on the topic, but you have to think carefully. Is this something that can have some impact? Is this something I have a strong track record? Do I have the team that can justify that I can lead this proposal? These are a lot of questions that you have to ask. Sometimes you read a proposal, you see someone write something maybe nice, but when you look at their track record, it doesn't fit that. Someone, if they pick on that, the proposal is out. If someone says, "Yeah, this is on this, it looks nice, but your profile doesn't show that you can do this," you're out. So those are the things that I think for a proposal you have to, and then it links well with that last point, building credibility, right, around the topic. So if I want to write a proposal next year, maybe I should start now by writing a paper which would maybe demonstrate my expertise around that topic. Maybe collaborate with one or two people who might be my team members to show that we already have some nice working relationship in place. So this is what I mean by building your track record, building credibility, and so on. Networking. I can tell you I've been networking with EPSRC for many years, and I can tell you it's been quite a useful journey because it allows you not only to be aware of opportunities, but also to kind of build some high level of familiarity with the expectations that you have in the process, right? Because one of the things you're wondering now, I guess, is, oh, when I write the proposal, what's going to happen, right? how it's going to be assessed. I think when you take part, reviewing proposals, taking part in panel, if you're lucky to be invited to take part in them, it allows you to see the fragilities of the process, the weaknesses of the process, the challenges of the process. And I think it helps you think carefully when you want to write a proposal. How do I need to frame things? You hear opinions of people on proposal and so on and so on. And one thing I should say, I hope I would not forget, maybe I should say it now. When Mosab was talking about people saying topics are too applied, I think I didn't mention it. I think one thing we have to keep in mind is when you are submitting your proposal to the match panel, a core assessment criteria is the innovation in the mathematics. Thus, you have to show that you're doing something novel in the mathematics. Now, it doesn't necessarily means you would be developing kind of, because our research, and that's also one thing I think which has come across from Janatra and Musab, in OR, the OR is very diverse in the sense that you have people who can do very theoretical things, but you have people who can do very applied. That applied doesn't not mean it is bad research. It can have very high impact in terms of the economy or and there's various things, social resolving social problems, but maybe it's using techniques which already exist. So, which I think is the biggest challenging part, which I think comes from what Mossab was saying. So you have to, I don't want to make this talk about it, but if you have a proposal like that, which you think in terms of impact, it could be very big, but maybe the tools that you're going to use to solve that practical problems are not necessarily innovative. I mean, oh, they already exist and so on. We can have a chat about it, but you have to think carefully how you frame the mathematical innovation of that, because that's probably what raises this sort of complaint, oh, it's too applied, because you haven't made a case that there's some new mathematics, some novel techniques that are going to come from there. So it's a kind of important fun thing to think about. So interdisciplinarity, I would like to just comment on this quickly. I think interdisciplinarity, from my experience, is very challenging to do interdisciplinary projects, because what tends to happen is you think your project is very interdisciplinary because maybe it needs things from different areas. Then you go and sit down, you write a nice document, and invite a few friends or colleagues to be part of the team. You might think you're smart, but what might happen is when you send it to the referees, they send you an expert in each of these areas. The person who is completely from not from your area will read this and what is this? What is this? Because you're not speaking their language. That's the first thing. It's like you take machine learning. You see machine learning, we say, oh, everybody is trying to say, oh, machine learning is optimization. Some statistician will say machine learning is statistics. Computer science will say it's computer science. But one thing that you miss is the vocabulary that is used by each of these people is different. They're using a different vocabulary to say the same thing. I can take you examples in machine learning where they will call something we call in optimization, we call it for decades, something very classical. They will call it completely, but it means exactly the same thing. That guy, when he reads this, it's like, nah, I don't really see where is the interdisciplinarity here. So what I want to just mention on this is, if you really want to write an interdisciplinary project, make sure each of the people involved really take part in the writing, and make sure the language, just the language, kind of is framed in such a way that there's some good level of middle ground, that people from the different parts, because it's very likely someone, at least one person from a different area from yours would read it. So they can still feel comfortable and see where the innovation is from their areas. So yeah, which is kind of this point links with the collaborator. And I think Mossad mentioned this, probably the most important thing about collaborators, which I could just emphasize. So if you just pick someone and put in your team, maybe because they are the best, they've written, for people who are in OR, they've written hundreds of OR papers. If I'm writing the proposal, I don't care. What I'm looking for is what are they going to contribute in your project that is going to help you be successful. I don't care what the person is. And I think many reviewers would. And if it doesn't come across like you really spell out what their contribution is going to be and how they are going to help you be successful in the project, it's going to be picked out by people, by referees. So that's something you have to pay attention to. Then now this point I think is probably one of the challenging points where I think it was covered probably a bit by Sinatra and Nusap as well. That is, you want to write a story which you would hope people from different areas or different level of expertise, because there's something someone would claim they are an expert in an area, so they might be, but maybe not to the same level than as the other, or maybe not as close as you would like to your area of research. So I consider referees of these three different categories: non-experts, EPSRC, the math, keep in mind the people in the math teams are not necessarily mathematicians. And even if they were, I mean, think about it. Math is huge, it's vast. We are 60 of us in my school. I'm sure each of us, if we sit where someone is talking about their research, we probably wouldn't know up 20% of what they're talking about. So that notion of experts to me is a very relative concept. So you have to keep that in mind. So the question is, so we have this, yeah, non-expert, but it probably, so what I mean from that is EPSRC will say, okay, this is an OR guy, we're going to send this proposal to them. But they might not be as close to that topic or that specific area as they could have a good, ready, in-depth judgment as you would hope. Then you have middle. People have a reasonable understanding, but maybe not as granular. And you have the real person who probably will read the proposal and know exactly what you're talking about. So you can have a combination of this for a given proposal. Maybe you could have just these two, or you have one of that and one. So I think for me, this is one of the biggest challenges when you write a proposal. How do I write it in such a way that a non-expert can still make an opinion and have a positive perception of your story? Secondly, how does someone somewhere in the middle still have a sense? And how, because as you know, you don't want proposals to be too technical, such that maybe these two people, they don't really get anything about you saying. But you still want some level of technicality such that a really expert can have a good sense of what you're trying to say, what is the innovation of your project. So I think this is something to think carefully about. And that's why I think proposals, you don't write them in a rush. You really take time, get people to give feedback. And I think in my school, and I think in probably, I guess, most universities in the UK, they when you have staff training or whatever around research or grant, they always encourage you when you write your proposal to get people, your colleagues and so on, to read and provide feedback. I think any feedback you get can be useful. And so your first draft, probably when you get feedback potentially from a few people, sometimes it just means you have to rewrite the thing from scratch, which is to make it better though. So because I don't think you should rush proposals, because you really want to give it a good shot. Yeah, you take your time and plan things. Yeah, in terms of, yeah, Sinatra explained really as clear as I can do better. The interaction, when you write your proposal, it goes to the freeze, then it comes back to you to respond to the criticism, and then those responses then would then go to the panel. And the panel here, I would do an analogy which I like between the whole review process here and kind of the process of reviewing a research article, which I think could be interesting to some of you, I hope. So I'm just having a very quick overview here, and then after I will do some really a bit quick look in terms of yeah, the questions in the review form. So yeah, in your costing, yeah, so this is something I think, which I think for me in particular have really been very helpful for my career. which EPSRC, I have some good level of familiarity with some other research funding bodies, especially the German ones. And typically in Germany with the DFK, which is the equivalent of EPSRC, if you apply for a proposal and you do your costing, there's no guarantee you're going to get all the money. Typically, they will fund like 75% or something like that. So they no, I wouldn't want to make a too strong statement, but typically they wouldn't necessarily give you all the money you applied for. So they give you a share of that. So which EPSRC doesn't do. So they can only exclude maybe cost which is not eligible. Then for me, what I always say is this is a great opportunity because if your story is really nice and you have a convincing case for a proposal, I I'm not saying that a proposal is not rejected on the costing, but if you have to have a sensible costing there, typically most things will be accepted if you do things a bit as Shanatra mentioned. So for me, this is a great opportunity, not only for the research, but also for you to advance your career more broadly. You can take the opportunity to include workshops, conferences, as of course you would have to demonstrate that they are useful for your project. Visits to experts, you could if you put some collaborators there, you can put some money there that you're going to visit them to work on the project, which, as you can think about it, it raises your profile beyond that project, right? It would probably help you in your promotions and different things. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about my analogy that I mentioned to you a moment ago. So I hope I still have time, right? I don't know what time is it. Is it two? Is it?
So we have 8 minutes left, and well, ideally we should have, leave some minutes for some questions.
Okay. So I think I would just skim through this last few slides. I think I have 3 or 4. So I just want to do a quick analogy here between what I think some parallels you can do between. So I assume because of course writing the proposal. Writing a paper is challenging in the sense that you have to maybe develop a new theory, you have to put together some data which is complex to have depending on your research area and so on. It has its own level of complexity, which is not necessarily what you have for a proposal. For a proposal, you don't have to have done the research. So, but the challenge is probably maybe identifying a good idea to write a proposal on, building a team, doing a sort of different things. But I think in the overall process, there's some parallel you can draw. Like I mentioned, the prioritization panel. So when you submit your proposal, it directly goes to the match team, people like Chanasra and her colleagues. My understanding is they are the first people who have a contact with your proposal. Like Shinatra say, if you have something odd showing up, like number of pages or whatever, they will return to you. That's more or less what the editorial team of a journal does. Then the prioritization panel works a bit like the editors, the chief editors or associate, whatever, typical of a journal they do. So when the reviews have come in the journal, the editors or the associate editor, they judge whether they are sensible to move the article forward in terms of asking you maybe to revise and it potentially being accepted. So more or less the prioritization panel does that job. Like I mentioned, for a standard proposals, typically you would have, I mean, of course, the assessment can vary relatively significantly depending on the scheme. For instance, for fellowship, the 5-year fellowship, you have interviews, but you don't have interviews for standard grant, you don't have interviews for small or for new investigators. So there's slight differences in each case. But for a standard grant, for instance, the prioritization panel takes the referee reports and your responses and try to assess them and make a judgment and rank proposals. And then if PSC funds them in order based on the budget they have for that panel. So that's more or less what happened. But the key thing is, as for EPSRC, you have a cutoff point because money doesn't have a limit, but that's not necessarily the thing with the journal, right? But not necessarily the same thing with the journal. But Other important thing, which is I think the fundamental difference, is that for a research paper, you've actually already done something. You've developed a theory. You've done this research on, I don't know, a specific area of healthcare or something you have already done your experiment and so on. But one critical difference with a research proposal, you haven't actually done research. You're promising something. You're promising that you would do something that is going to change the world, right? Potentially. So all you need is craft your story so that it can be easily understood by the different type of reviews that I mentioned. But trust matters a lot for a proposal. Of course, you have trust in research, but actually that trust might be resolved if you have an expert who reads your paper and really understands, right? Maybe if you prove a theorem, they can check what is wrong. But for a proposal, it's trust. Do people trust that your story is believable? What you propose, do they believe that you can actually do it? So you see that track record, the theme around you, the step you've taken. If you're doing a research, you're working on a project where you think is going to transform healthcare. Do you have some key partners in the healthcare industry involved as partner in your project, which they've promised that they will provide data. They've also promised they will help check try your technology and so on and so on. Do you have that process in place? So those are so you see, trust is very important for a proposal because you haven't done the research, you've promised, but we have to believe it and we have to have ways to assess whether what you're saying it's actually achievable and you can do it. So, but the common point between the two things is innovation. And as I said at the beginning, if you're applying and you want your proposal to go to the match team, think carefully, where is the mathematical innovation in your project? So that's really, I think, a common denominator between the two. So as time, we have about 3 minutes. I think Shanatra has talked about this a lot, so I will just leave this. The main thing I wanted to highlight this here is typically, because I had some previous question by someone, yeah, I think it was on you. I thought for investigator award, so the questions here, what I've used here is from when we were still using JESS, the JESS system. But the questions are very similar, but the two which are usually typical on new investigator or early career-based grants are research independence and support from your organization, which you don't have for other scheme like for standard modes and more a grant targeted for a general type of applicants. So we could talk a bit about it. So if you're interested, maybe some things you can do to support or to evidence that you have a good level of research independence, or maybe some key things that your organization can put in their letter to strengthen your proposal. We can talk a bit about that if you're interested. But yeah, so the thing I was just doing, I didn't actually know because I initially thought I was talking first. So I kind of went a bit. So this is a form that I'm trying for a proposal I'm working on. So this is how the form, the online look now under the TFS. And that this is a comment I made a bit at the beginning, that you now have sections which directly match the statement that the referees they have to provide, which I think is really good. So what I've circled here are the core element. Some of the other elements are just ticking boxes or filling some text and so on. So you see they match nicely. So this one is a peer review form on TFS. So this point in yellow, they match the actual sections you have to fill in the application form, which I think is really good. Should make it a bit much easier for you to kind of make your case, knowing that the referee is going to be specifically assessing that. So yeah, sorry for being a bit long.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, thanks for both three speakers. I think what you presented, somehow complement each other's, the content, and it's very helpful. And unfortunately, we only booked 1.5 hours. Probably we should have planned a longer session because I'm sure that there are a lot of questions. The audience are interested in asking, but perhaps. I'm not sure if that's possible, but maybe the slides maybe you can share the slides with via some channel so that for the people who didn't manage to attend, or left early, or they didn't have any have time to ask questions, they can take a look at your slides. Chanatra.
Sorry, I'm aware of time. Again, apologize. I think I talked too much for my sessions. Just one last thing. I'd like to share with everyone is that today is actually my last day as the OR portfolio manager for the Maths team. So I got promotion. I'm moving to the advanced material team within EPSRC as well. So not so much sure, whether we will interact, in the future, but I'm sure, if you have any questions, our lovely Math team, are there to support, and we should have the new OR portfolio manager within the Math team very soon. Thank you,
Right.
everyone. Yeah.
So I can just add, Chanatra will be big missed. We've worked with Chanatra for quite a few years, and I think having worked with many portfolio managers, you've been probably the most engaged with the OR Society. I hope
Well,
you will
thank you.
pass the word to your successor to keep doing the things you were doing for us, attending our committee meetings, giving us updates. I think that was really, really grateful. We're really, really great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And I wish you good luck in your new job. Yeah.
Right. Well, thanks again for 3 speakers, and I think this session is very successful with a lot of helpful information for ECRs, and hopefully we will organize something similar in the future. But for now, unfortunately, time is out, and thanks for everyone. Thanks everyone for joining, and yeah, I think we can close this session now.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.